The Toronto Blue Jays win their second straight game in a row against the Pittsburgh Pirates off the back of a strong performance from Jose Berrios. And the bottom of the lineup, they stepped up big time. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and the Jays got it done. Another win in the win column for the Blue Jays after a 5-game losing streak combined against the Seattle Mariners and the Boston Red Sox. It was a tough stretch of play. A lot of fans got discouraged, but we did not lose hope. We stayed the course, and the Jays are back on track. That's what they had to do. They had to come into Pittsburgh and win this series, and they did that, and now it doesn't get any easier for the rest of the month of May, but hey, they're back on track, and they look to be playing much better baseball than they were just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, the schedule is not going to get easier. The AL East is definitely not going to get easier. So taking care of business against the Pirates, especially after, a very disappointing series in Boston, was going to be very, very key. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. The support's been great. We're on the road to 7K. And Peter will be back at his normal setup for the next video, so the mic will be better there for all you commenting that. But let's get into it. And Peter, what a big game for the Blue Jays. And obviously we won yesterday, which was very, very good. But after losing 5 in a row, like you mentioned, I feel like you kind of had to start getting on a win streak to start to feel really good about yourself. And it's something John Schneider mentioned at the end of getting swept was we just got to go out there and shut it down and start getting some wins. And that's exactly what they did today on the back of Jose Berrios.
Yeah, there are ups and downs throughout a 162-game regular season for every team, not just the Blue Jays. And obviously that's the team that we follow most extensively, so we're going to be more locked into the Jays. But every team goes through rough stretches. Right now, the Yankees have a ton of injuries, and they're not playing great baseball. And then they managed to win today. They beat the Rays. So, every team has their peaks and valleys. It's no different with the Blue Jays. But you don't want to bleed out too long. The Jays went on a 5-game losing streak. You want to stop it there. You don't want it to drag on to 6 or 7 or 8 because that's when you get into the danger zone. And they did that. They stopped the bleeding. They've now won 2 in a row. And they're looking much better. They needed a little reset. They needed a couple of quality starts in a row from Chris Bassett and Jose Berrios, and that's exactly what they got, and that puts the bullpen into much better shape, and it prepares them for this tough month up ahead.
Yeah, and like you said, it's about handling the big loss streaks, not how you respond after them. And like you said, it was only 5 games, but there's going to be tons of these throughout the season. Maybe not 5-game losing streaks, but skids where, the Jays are struggling, and they've been getting fairly unlucky as well, but they just haven't been playing well. And let's just get into the hitting a little bit, and we'll touch on the bottom of the order who really stepped up today in a later chapter here. But let's touch on the top a little bit. George Springer at 1 for 4. Bo Bichette 1 for 4. Shout out Dalton Varsho and Peter. I say it often, but you called it. Varsho has gotten hot. He started to pick it up, and this was always going to happen. He was never going to be a 150 hitter, but he's staying hot now, hitting above 230. Matt Chapman, again, he's just been absolutely dominant all season, and he's going to get a ton of money, which is something we'll discuss in a future video, I'm sure. Whit Merrifield had an unfortunate game, and the bottom of the lineup did phenomenal, which we'll touch on a bit later. But, Peter, who impressed you out of the, obviously the bottom of the lineup, but what did you see out of Dalton Varsho today that impressed you the most? Because he has just been really good the past few games, and he really, really needed that. But the hitting adjustment seemed to work very well.
Yeah, I called him getting hot in the Boston series, and that's what he went ahead and did. I didn't know he was going to make an adjustment to his batting stance or to his swing, but he went ahead and did that. Maybe he watches our videos. Who knows? But ever since he implemented that leg kick back into his game, he's been a different hitter, and he's been the hitter that he has been in the past in Arizona, and that's what he's got to get back to. He's got to pull the baseball. He's got to pull the ball in the air, and that's what makes him successful. It doesn't matter if he strikes out. It doesn't matter if he's not a 300 hitter. Don't try to transform what's already successful. He's a power hitter who, gives you a presence in the middle of that lineup. So let him be who he's going to be. He's never going to be a 320 hitter. That's just not what Dalton Varsho is, but that little adjustment has gotten him back to what made him so successful in Arizona, and it adds another wrinkle to this lineup for the Blue Jays. Having a lefty masher in the middle to protect Vladdy and Chapman, I mean, that's what they wanted. That's what they went out and acquired in Varsho, and he's stepping up, and he's doing that right now.
Yeah, very important for him to step up. And some other guys stepped up, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, let's touch on Jose Berrios, who, like you said, he dominated today. He carved up the Pirates, and it was very well needed, especially after his rough start in Boston there. But what were your thoughts on Berrios today? You can look at his stats here. He went 6 1/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. His command was there, which is something that has been a bit shaky throughout the season, especially with his overuse of the fastball. But what did you see out of him tonight in his great start?
He was pitching lower in the zone, and that's a big key for him. He gets into a lot of trouble when he's middle and middle high in the zone. So I was very happy to see him work on the corners. It was a big strike zone from the home plate umpire, and he used that to his advantage. But you can't blame a pitcher for doing that. You got to test the waters, and you got to see how much they're going to give you early on in the game. And he played to that perfectly throughout those 6 1/3 innings that he gave. And like you said, it was well needed. The Blue Jays needed a reset. I wish Tim Meza didn't have to pitch tonight, but he was dominant. He struck out the side, and he looks like a totally different pitcher as well this season. And Anthony Bass, shout out to him for coming in. He's caught a lot of heat. And Jay Jackson, making his season debut with the Blue Jays, did what he had to do. So you save those power arms. You save Eric Swanson, who's pitched 3 out of the last 4 days. You save Jordan Romano, who also pitched yesterday, only 9 pitches, but you want them to get as much rest as possible, especially in these games that you're winning 8-2 or winning 8-0. So shout out to Jose Berrios, did what he had to do. He's an absolute warrior out there, 100 pitches tonight. And the bullpen did what they had to do as well. Bass, Mesa, and Jay Jackson, they all went out there and did their job. So shout out to all 4 of those pitchers. I was very impressed with what I saw. And although the strike zone was big, they used it to their advantage, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and Berrios, like you said, he needed to get some length because the bullpen's been a bit taxed. We had to use Swanson and Romano yesterday despite, being up 4-0. But, of course, John Schneider, like I said in yesterday's video, I know you weren't there, but, you don't have too many reliable relievers right now, so you get wins when you can. But like you said, Tim Meza, yep. Big shout out to him. His ERA is sub-1. He's been dominant. He struck out the side today. And Jay Jackson, it's good to see him get some action after coming up for Zach Pop, who went on the 15-day IL. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. But overall, phenomenal game out of the pitching staff. And I hope this continues because, like we talk about all the time, pitching is really the most important thing, especially for the Blue Jays right now, because the offense has been pretty good, and they were pretty good in most games that we got swept. But without pitching, it's all downhill. But let's touch on the bottom of the order that absolutely stepped up today. And Peter, I'll let you give your shine to whoever you want into the bottom of the order. Of course, the big one was Brandon Belt, who was 3 for 3, or 2 doubles and a walk before, of course, getting ejected there, which you can touch on a little bit. But what a game out of the bottom 4 there. And, Kirk's hitting low, but what a game from them, combining for 8 hits.
Yeah, Brandon Belt, we've been ragging on him all season. The big question mark is how much time does he have left in this lineup before he gets cut or before he gets replaced with somebody else. And he was locked in from start to finish today. And he was spitting on those borderline pitches, and he got ejected because he took 3 borderline pitches that were absolute balls, and he was robbed of a walk. It's as simple as that. And this is a guy who's hitting under 200, who's got an OPS under 600, who, you're messing with his stats. He's trying to get them up here, and he's trying to look a little bit better on paper, and you're taking that away from him. So I understand why he's frustrated, but I want to see that fight. I want to see that spirit. We saw it out of Jose Berrios when he struck out the side in the 6th inning, and we saw it out of Brandon Belt today when he thought he got robbed at the plate. So I was very excited with what I saw out of some guys that have been highly scrutinized all season long. And Brandon Belt, if he can get going, we've been saying it all year, he can be valuable. He just has to get going, and he has gotten going in the past. So let's hope that he can do it and keep it going all season long.
Yeah, huge shout out to him. And I've been on record saying, we don't know how long he's going to be in the lineup, but today is definitely going to help his case, getting on base, 4 times there. But Alejandro Kirk as well, Kevin Biggio, shout out to him a little bit. He had a pretty poor, a couple infield hits, but we'll give him his props. We'll let him have his hits as they do. And Kevin Kiermaier has been nothing but spectacular since joining the Blue Jays, both on the field and even off the field. He's become a fan favorite, so huge shout out to him. He's been dominant, and what a signing by Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro there. But overall, phenomenal game for the Blue Jays. We take the win. We play tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully we can win that one with Yusei Kikuchi. But before we do wrap up, we'll quickly touch on a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury update, who was scratched from today's game. And like you said, we won today's game without Vladdy, and that's something that's, hard to do sometimes, as he tends to carry offense a little bit. But Peter, a quick update regarding him. Shadavidi tweeted, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. felt some discomfort in his wrist last night. He came in today, tested out in the cage. When the soreness was still there, he and the Jays decided to shut it down for the day and play it safe. And you can pause your video and read through here. This is an article by, I believe it was Ben Nicholson Smith. But essentially, it set in yesterday during the win, and he was in lineup originally, but decided to basically, the Blue Jays played it safe today. Do you have anything you want to touch on regarding this? I'm perfectly fine with him playing it safe because we do not want him to be injured or have anything hopefully lingering going forward. As you can see his slash line there, which has been unbelievable as of late. So he has been crushing the ball.
Yeah, it was actually a joint decision between him and the coaching staff. He decided to take the day off in accordance with John Schneider and Don Mattingly and everyone else. So it was the right decision, didn't cost the Jays a win. They went out there and took care of what they needed to take care of. I expect them to be back there tomorrow, but wrist injuries are tough, and you never want to see them linger throughout the season. It's a long year, so Vladdy needs to take a couple more games off and assure that he's all right for the playoffs. And when the games really matter, then I think that's the most important thing, because those wrist injuries can linger, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, especially with him. He's been crushing the ball, tons of home runs as of late, so get him healthy, and if he's feeling good tomorrow, then I won't complain if he's in there as we go for the sweep. But that'll wrap up the video. We're happy to be back recording videos with wins. They're definitely much more fun to record, but thank you guys for your support. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.